really close to making the top 10 that didn't. For me, were Najee Harris, DeAndre Swift, Aaron Jones, and Debo Samuel, because, let's face it, he's probably the Niners' best running back.
Bro, that's kind of disrespectful to Debo, man. But I understand your logic there. I got a few bubble guys. They're very young promising backs that I just don't have a large enough sample size to put them in the top 10 over some of these other established vets. Not to say that they won't be in the top 10 later on in their career, but I have Javonte Williams out of Denver, Elijah Mitchell, San Francisco, DeAndre Swift out of Detroit, and an older guy, Ezekiel Elliott. If he can have a bounce back year, I think he can bounce back into the top 10.
Yeah, yeah, I just fuck the Cowboys.
I agree, bro. I hate their fans uh, and Skip Bayless, bro.
So at number 10, I have Saquon Barkley. At number 9, Javonte Williams. 8, Austin Eckler. 7, Alvin Kamara. And 6, Christian McCaffrey. Quick reason, injuries are a huge thing. That's why.
That's understandable. That's very understandable with the injury part. My top 10, at number 10, I have Joe Mixon. Number 9, I have Austin Eckler. Number 8, Alvin Kamara. Number 7, Aaron Jones. And number 6, Najee Harris.
Mm, got Najee a little high. I can't hate.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see what happens if their quarterback is doo doo. Um,
But I don't want to talk too much about this, but I will say for Najee, he put up 12 or 1200 yards,
mhm.
give or take, with one of the worst offensive lines in the league as well
Yeah.
in Pittsburgh. So, I mean, if you stack that line and put an actual offense around him, that's not a 40 plus year old quarterback who can't even throw 15 yards. I think Najee's numbers will go up even more.
Number 5 for me is Nick Chubb, and I know a lot of people have Nick Chubb really high. There's even some people out there who claim he's the best. I've ran across a few of them. He has incredible numbers, and I cannot take that away from him. Yards per carry are very high, and everything looks great. Maybe he should be higher than 5, but the reason why I have him at 5 and not higher is his backups. All their numbers aside from usage kind of mirror that. And I think if Kareem Hunt, okay, he's very talented, right? But then Dearness Johnson, I think is his name is that his name? The
Yep.
third string guy.
Yep.
He's also over 5 yards a carry. And so it just makes me wonder how much is Nick Chubb and how much is the offensive line.
Right, right. And my number 5 mirrors yours. My number 5 is Nick Chubb as well. And I
Ooh.
think this just attests to the higher upper echelon of backs in the league because Nick Chubb is a very, very good running back. He's a guy that like he doesn't do one thing extraordinarily well. He just does everything well. Like he's just well rounded.
Mhm.
He's a well rounded running back. And gets the yards per carry, like you said. But kind of the same things you were saying about the backups was kind of my line of thinking as well. And I put Nick Chubb 5 because of the offensive line in Cleveland. They've had a top offensive line for years.
Yeah.
And like you said, Kareem Hunt comes in and he, looks sometimes just as good as Nick Chubb. I mean, the third string guy comes in and he can bust out a few runs here and there. So, like you said, is it the offensive line? Is it more Nick Chubb? I think Nick Chubb is a well-rounded running back, but the guys that I have above him, I think just do a little bit more and can bring a little bit more to an offense than Nick Chubb can.
All right. I mean, yeah, that's crazy. I expected us to not have that the same. So that's pretty cool that we had the same line of thought. And number 4, I have a guy who a lot of people aren't gonna have this high, and Joe Mixon. Um, so a lot of people talk about what Joe Burrow did last year and how his offensive line is so trash. The same thing applies to Joe Mixon, and I think he had a hell of a season considering, you know, the linemen that he had, making those blocks for him. I, I've seen a couple people be with me on this bold take. I even saw somebody just a few minutes before we started saying that they think Joe Mixon is going to be the rushing leader this season. Now, I won't go as far as to say that, but I do think it's a possibility. Very talented runner. He's also good out of the backfield. He knows how to pass block. He doesn't have to come off the field. And, that offensive line is revamped. So if they decide to have a balanced offense, then Joe Mixon could very well lead the way.
I mean, I'm really high on Joe Mixon, and I have him at 10, but I mean, he could very well be higher. He was top three rushing in the AFC last year. And he put up incredible numbers in that offense. And I think he's huge for Cincinnati and Joe Burrow. And you can't argue because he put up great numbers, especially in the AFC. So you can't really argue with what you said. But my number four is Dalvin Cook. And I think Dalvin Cook is special. Going back to his days at FSU and being a Miami fan, FSU had a 7-year win streak, and part of that was because of Dalvin Cook on us. He's special out of the backfield. He catches the ball well. He's quick, fast, elusive, breaks huge runs. I mean, the knock on Dalvin Cook is, can he stay on the field for 17 games? That's why talent wise, I think he could be top two, maybe even the best running back in the league. But just consistently how he's gotten hurt, and I know the guy that I'm about to talk about next is kind of in that same boat. But for me, I just couldn't put Dalvin Cook higher than four, just based on the three guys that I have above him.
Yeah. So I actually have Dalvin at 3 for the same reasons. And barring injuries, he's similar to Mixon, but I think he's just a little more explosive.
Yeah.
So I think like that one little thing is what would put him a step above. But people label him as like super injury prone, but it's not as bad as it seems when it comes to games played. But he plays dinged up quite a bit.
Right, right. That's the
Um,
thing. Yep.
but if he can manage to stay on the field, then I truly, truly believe that Dalvin Cook could be top 3 back, because there's no holes in his game. The pass blocking, the
Yep.
ability to catch out of the backfield, that he can run inside, outside, doesn't really
Shifty,
matter. Yeah.
super shifty. And he's like, he may look not as like the biggest running back, but he'll put you on your ass.
Yeah, he runs with a lot of power, I
He
think.
does. He does.
Yeah.
So my number three, and I know this kind of contradicts what I just was talking about with Dalvin Cook, but my number three is Christian McCaffrey. And yes, injury ridden the past 2 years. But if it wasn't for those injuries, he'd be number one on my list just because how special he is. I mean, if you play fantasy football, he's a fantasy football player's wet dream. I mean, especially in a PPR league, like 9, 10 catches a game. He'll still put up almost 90 to 100 yards rushing. He'll get a couple touchdowns a game. The kid's special. He's quick, fast, everything. We were kind of talking about Dalvin Cook. But just in this league nowadays, it's a pass first league. You need a running back that can be dependable catching the ball out of the backfield, and that's just the day and age. It's no longer the thumper right up the middle kind of running back that gets 30 plus touches a game. You need a guy that can catch screens and take it to the house. You need a guy that can run a wheel route. You need a guy that can maybe even go into the slot, and that's who Christian McCaffrey is. And he's like he's the prototypical running back for today's NFL. So I have him at number three.
Speaking of thumpers and guys that like to run up the middle and don't do much of anything else, I have Derrick Henry in number 2. But when it comes to getting the handoff and just running the damn ball, I don't think it gets any better than Derrick Henry. He had 2,000 yards just a season prior. Um, and I think he was leading the league again until he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty impressive. And the reason I have him in number 2 is because of what he did the season before last, where he was before he got injured, and the fact that he came back in time for the playoffs is kind of,
Yeah.
just a testament to how special of a talent he is and
Just
how,
how much of an athletic freak he is.
yeah, he is the Tennessee Titans. Like
100%.
literally, and I think they're going to run him until his
Yeah.
kneecaps are just dragging on the floor. just I don't think they have any other offense besides
No,
run, run, run again.
I
I think Derrick Henry is just gonna have the high usage rate, and I think he's gonna return to form because his injury wasn't an injury that kind of stays along for the ride for the rest of your life. It's not a hamstring. I think, once he came back, then he's good to go. So
yeah. I agree with a lot of what you said. However, I have number two, Jonathan Taylor, out of Indianapolis. He is the rushing king last year. Most rushing yards. It was 1,800 plus yards, 18 touchdowns. So he was the best running back in the NFL last year. Do I think he's the best running back in the NFL? No, I do not. Um, I think Jonathan Taylor, I mean, he's a thumper, like you said, but he's faster than most people give him credit for. Um, I just think that he's kind of a weak link in the passing game. Um, and it's 1 year with that 1,800 plus yards. Um, and that's great. He had a great season last year. He was the rushing king. I would like to see a larger sample size before I make him the best running back in the game. I mean, what will happen this year? That's an interesting storyline coming now. He's on teams' radars more so than he was last year coming in. So when they stack the box on Indy, like, is Jonathan Taylor going to be as efficient as he was last year? So it's an interesting kind of storyline as the season progresses. But the guy that I have number one, I'm going to tell you why I think he's number one in a
no, go
second.
go ahead right now. Do it, do it, do it.
Okay, so my number one is Derrick Henry. The reason why I have Derrick Henry over Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, and I looked this up right before we came on just so I could like have this argument like right there in my head. He missed 9 games last year, so 17 games. He played 8 games. He rushed for 937 yards in 8 games. He missed 9 games and he almost was 1,000 yard runner. So he was on pace to get 2,000 plus yards again.
Again, yeah.
Again. So that would have been back to back years. I think if I'm a defensive coordinator and I have to game plan for either Derrick Henry or Jonathan Taylor, who strikes more fear into me as a defensive coordinator, it's Derrick Henry. I think Derrick Henry is the best pure running back in football. Now, I talked about Christian McCaffrey being today's best, prototypical running back. But I mean, as far as production has gone for the past 3+ seasons, Derrick Henry has been on the top. And yes, he got hurt last year, but he was on pace to get over 2,000 again. And I think he would have. So that's why I have Derrick Henry number one.
I'll list mine off again real quick. I had at 10, Saquon, then Javante, Eckler, Kamara, McCaffrey at 6, Nick Chubb at 5, Joe Mixon at 4, Dalvin Cook at 3, Derrick Henry at 2, Jonathan Taylor at 1. 1 and 2 are separated by like less than 1%, I guess, if you will, for me. And then your 10 was what?
My 10 was Joe Mixon, number 10, Austin Eckler, 9, Alvin Kamara, 8, Aaron Jones, 7, Najee Harris, 6, Nick Chubb, 5, Dalvin Cook, 4, Christian McCaffrey, 3, Jonathan Taylor, 2, and Derrick Henry, 1. And I have a question, Anthony.
Yeah, what's up?
You have Saquon Barkley at number 10. So
Yes.
can I hear your reasoning
Yeah,
for having
absolutely.
him
So
instead of like a guy like Najee Harris or like Aaron Jones you put in your bubble too?
so the biggest thing for me for that was we saw what Saquon did when he was healthy, and he had no help. They did upgrade a little bit of their offensive line. It's not like it's going to be an incredible season for that unit, but
Right.
I uh, I think Saquon's going to come back. He's going to be healthy, and I think it's more so potential of what he can do,
Yeah.
and a lot of me just really wanting him to come back to form. All three of these guys, a rookie, same age, 21 years old, let's say, and just you get to draft one for your team
Okay.
right now. Are you taking Derrick Henry,
Okay.
Adrian Peterson,
Okay.
or Marshawn Lynch?
Hmm. Dude, like I told you, Adrian Peterson got hurt in college, came back and was like a whole new man. He was Adrian Peterson 2.0. That man did things with the football that I mean you like only a few can do, like the Walter Paytons, the Barry Sanders. When you put like a back in the same kind of sentence as those guys, and Adrian Peterson is in conversation with those guys. I think he's a future Hall of Famer.
Hmm.
Not to say that, Marshawn will not, or Derrick Henry. I mean, he's a future Hall of Famer as well. I just think Adrian Peterson is just
You
top
think he's
five.
just one step above those
I
guys?
do. I do. I do. I think he's top five, maybe top 10 back of all time. So I gotta go with Adrian Peterson.
I put a lot of thought into it, which isn't fair. My question, I get to do those things. Um, I think I would take Marshawn Lynch just because we saw what he did in Seattle. And people, I'm sure you and me know people our age, but the younger kids who just hear about beast mode, they have no
Right.
idea that he was really going crazy in Buffalo, but his numbers weren't good because he had to break 8 tackles just to get to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, he was
Um,
awesome in Buffalo.
so
He
I,
just didn't. He
he,
he unlocked his true potential in Seattle. Yeah.
yeah, so I feel like if I were able to draft one of these guys, and know their potential like we do, I would take Marshawn Lynch and put him in a more ideal situation. And I think when it comes to like just downhill running, the only thing Adrian Peterson had better than Marshawn is like that top end speed,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that breakaway capability. But in terms of like running hard, I think I would take Marshawn, even though it's close. I think I would take Marshawn, and I think Marshawn actually is a better catcher than Adrian Peterson. I don't think AP was a very good receiver out of
Yeah.
that.
He wasn't, but I don't need him to do that.
Yeah,
Take the
exactly.
ball,
Some people
take the
don't.
ball, and get me a first down. That's all
And
you got to do, AP.
I feel like AP, as good as he was at just getting the ball and fucking going, I hated the fact that he struggled running out of shotgun. He wasn't that great of a pass blocker, and he can't catch. But it just amazes me that somebody can do so well.
With those limitations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So it's
bro.
just
And AP stride, that man runs with all of his life. Like when he's breaking like in the open field, that man is his soul is like running out of him when
had
he
he
runs.
not fumbled so much early in his
That
career,
that too, yeah.
then I probably would have made a different choice.